Okay, master data. When they first asked me to lead this as a global project in Aspen, I literally nearly ran for the hills. I think you all know how difficult master data is. But needless to say, I'm still here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ursula Haggard. I am the Group Executive for Business Support at Aspen. And it is my privilege to take you today through the journey that we as Aspen have embarked on. It's by no means finished, but embarked on in our journey in getting master data sorted out in our organization. So let me just take you through, this is sort of the agenda that I'm going to be following today. I'm going to take you through sort of what led us into master data, why did we choose that as a project. We'll go through who did we choose as an implementation partner, what are the tools that we used, and then as well, how did we make all of that work for Aspen? Okay, so I'll take you through a bit of a few slides going into some of the detail on that. The first thing that we did when we decided to do this master data project was really, it was a key decision in Aspen to start treating our master data as a strategic asset. And the reason why we did that is that we had found up until that point that literally every project that we tried to implement in Aspen had master data as a key pain point and issues. I don't know if that resonates with some of you, but it really was becoming more and more apparent that that was the common pain point across all projects. But not just in project implementation, we also had problems in our group reporting, trying to bring a very federated business environment together into consolidated reporting. It literally was a nightmare. So the Aspen journey then, if I go into a bit more detail, let me start at some of the technological pain points that we had. In our Aspen landscape, we had a number of different master data governance systems in place across all the different business units around the world. We had SAP MDG, we had Wind Shuttle, or we had nothing, literally nothing in some businesses, and people used an Excel spreadsheet to manage the data. We also come from a very regulated environment. We are a pharmaceutical industry. So some of the processes that we need to follow, the fields that we have in our systems are have to be GXP compliant. We have the regulators that come and audit us on a regular basis. So there needs to actually be a lot of strict control in these environments. If I then go to some of the really challenges overall data-wise, because we as Aspen have been a very federated business environment, we have a number of different ERP systems around the world, different versions of ERPs. We don't have a single platform. We also have a number of other systems that have to feed in or from the information in the ERP systems. And what we found is that we had these different pockets of master data across all of these environments. We would have, we take one field, I think of in our environment, a molecule is quite important, we're pharmaceutical. I would look at one system and look at the molecule fields and then go to another system and try and draw a similar report and have completely different values in there. So different standards were being used in the different business units, and each business unit was literally allowed to do their own thing. There was no central governance and control. We were a business that over the years have been built up by buying different businesses around the globe, and we have not always caught up with the IT landscape in deploying those businesses and onboarding them. So obviously having that kind of environment with all this fragmented data has really led to very difficult reporting. I have the privilege of also running our group finance system in Aspen. And in that system, we try to bring together all the itemized sales that we do across the globe. And you'll see from some of my next slides how very difficult it was to bring that data together. If you're working with a number of business units, everyone having the data in a different shape and form. So let's start looking at this. Before I go into the detail of this slide, I do want to caution you, and that's really why I sort of running to the hills in the beginning when we looked at this project. And I had many, many sleepless nights around master data, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that master data is everywhere. It is the foundation of everything that you do in your systems, and it is very big. And that became just too daunting for me. So we looked at what were our main burning points in Aspen. So we then decided to not go the big bang approach and do everything in one go and trying to get everything perfect in one go. We decided to really take little bite sizes of this elephant. And for our first phase of the project, we've decided to do 3 objects. The one being the material master, that is where we had the biggest differences in the environment. Then the next ones I'll get to on the next slide. But let me just quickly hover on the material master, and you can see why that became one of our biggest pain areas. I've got a picture here of one of our actual products. We do make Alcaran 2 milligram tablets. They come in 25 tablets per bottle. I mean, I was actually asked by our deputy CEO to put together a report of what the sales for this product across the globe looked like. Now remember, it's a tablet. If we say it's a 2 milligram Alcaran tablet, that is what it is. It's the same everywhere around the globe. However, when I actually drew the first report out of our systems, I got 94 different lines of information on that report. And the reasons being, every business unit gave it a different number, first of all. Secondly, you have some of the examples that you have on screen here. Some people wrote it out as tablets, others wrote it as tabs, then others tab. Some had 1 space between them, others had 2 or 3 spaces. And every change that you do like that gets regarded as a uniqueness in your IT landscape, so it gives you another record. So literally the only way that you could bring this together was eyeball these 94 lines and say, yes, I am looking at the same product. Now I can go and try and consolidate them. So that is the reason why we took the material master as being one of our objects. The other 2 that we chose is really a global profit center structure. We started putting that together a number of years ago when we embarked on our S4 roadmap. So every S4 entity that we roll on, we actually now give this global profit center structure. In Aspen, we do that according to brands. So we determine our profitability in the group on a brand level for all of our products. And then the other one was the chart of accounts. I have been with Aspen for 17 years, and it literally took me about 15 of those years to try and convince the business that we needed a single chart of accounts to be able to report on. So I was quite happy about sneaking this one in and making sure that at long last we have one global chart of accounts that we now roll out to the businesses as we bring them on board onto S4. So as part of the project, we did not do this rollout of the chart of accounts to all the business units because we still have some of them on ECC6. I wasn't going to do that mapping exercise, so we bring them on board as we migrate them to S4. Okay, so let's just then go into, sorry, I didn't move the screen here, apologies for that. So this is just on the chart of accounts and the profit center structure. So let me now go into the solution a bit. So who did we choose and what did we choose to do this with? So the solution that we chose to go with was ITMDS. It stands for Intelligence Master Data Simplified. And I think the name actually just says it all. It is a simplified way of doing master data. It was easy for our users to work with. It comes with a solid data governance part, and it also has automation in populating fields that have that are linked to each other. So that really has reduced a large amount of human error, or manual errors as you type them in. The partner that we have selected for this roadmap with us has been NTT Data. I'm giving you just a bit of information on the next 2 slides about NTT themselves and a bit more about the tool. But really, our choice here was that NTT are quite strong in the pharma industry. They are also a global player, and as we were doing this as a global rollout, we needed someone that was operational in the different countries that we were going to. And I have to really compliment them. They have done this a number of times, and they have really gone the extra mile with Aspen in making sure that we successfully roll this out to the business units that we have gone live with up until now. Okay, so and just in a nutshell and in summary, why did we choose ITMDS again? Really for the simplification, the automation, and the governance that it came with. And I'll go into a bit more detail of exactly how does all of that now actually work, and I'll do a bit of an example. So the basis on which the ITMDS works is that it groups your fields into different profiles in SAP. You then define a profile content behind each one of these, and then you set up rules for dependent values. Okay, so what does all of that mean? If you've now gone and linked these things and you've put these rules in, it effectively means that by filling in a few fields, the green ones on screen here, the system will use the rules and the dependent values and automatically go and populate a number of other fields in the system for you. So it prevents having a user going in and going and manually populating all of those fields, which is just what your standard SAP would be doing. So in Aspen, we never do things 100% the standard way. And we have had to add in not only doing master data on the material master on some of the SAP standard fields, but we've also gone the next level to add a lot of custom fields. So the screen that I'm showing you here is that same Alcurand tablet I showed you in the beginning, how it looks now live in our system when we went and created this as an item. And the reason why I'm also showing, and I'll illustrate it a bit more on the next screen of it, where it shows that we've used some of the functionality in ITMDS where you can set up different roles in the system. So in this case here, this is the basic role, and the basic role is then responsible for populating those fields. Each of the fields that they need to populate comes with a drop-down list that we have pre-populated with a list of values. Okay, so that makes it a lot easier for the user. Likewise, we have a finance user, a regulatory user, and a supply chain user, and they will all have responsibility of completing those fields assigned to them. Okay, so how does all of that now actually just work if I go to a workflow? We have a requester that initiates the creation of a new material. The requester gets assigned the role of a basic user, and he starts populating some of those basic fields. Once he's populated that and saved that, it triggers a workflow to those other users, the finance user, regulatory, supply chain. They all simultaneously get a notification in their inbox to say, there's a new item, come and complete the information for that item. Then once all of the fields that we have regarded as being mandatory fields to create an item in our system, once all of those fields have been populated by these users, it triggers the workflow to the final approver who will go and review the data. You know, sometimes people just by accident choose the wrong field. He'll review the data, make sure that everything is correct. The moment he says approve, that appears in the SAP system. It then becomes a record in SAP. Okay. But then, like most businesses, we also always need these fast track and quick ways of doing things, especially at budget time. You can't go and spend the time populating and finding 250 fields worth of information to create a new material. You have only bare basics and you know you are planning to sell this item in the next year. You need to create it to be able to do a budget against it, and it's financial year end, so the clock is ticking. So in that case, what we've done is we've identified certain fields as being the critical fields. You mark them as being critical. That is then the bare minimum that you have to complete before we will allow an item to be created in the system. Again, it goes through that workflow. The final approver looks at the information and approves it, and it will be in your ERP system. Okay, so that really does help a lot for speed and efficiency in getting things done. Okay, so then how specifically, even further, did we make all of this work for Aspen? I told you in the beginning that we had a very fragmented environment. So before we started this project, We would, for instance, have a product that we manufacture in one of our factories. It would then from the factory go to our global business called AGI. From AGI, it would then be distributed to a number of markets around the world, say Mexico in my example. So the factory would first of all have to go and create that item in our old landscape manually in SAP. They would also have to go and create the same item in our group finance system, as well as in our group supply chain system. Once they've done that, they would send an email to Aspen Global, AGI. They would follow the same process, created in SAP, created in finance system, created in the supply chain. Then likewise, the email goes to Mexico and they follow the same thing. So effectively, that's one single item that we are trying to sell across the group got created 9 times over, generally by 9 different people. So you must understand that each one typed it in differently. Hence, we ended up with that original 94 different versions of the truth. What we have done in our deployment of ITMDS is we have created a new SAP instance that we have as an S4HANA instance. It is only our master data that we put in there. There's no transactional data in there. We call that our global master data system. So when a user now wants to create a new item, they log onto the central system. They create it there. Once it is approved, and you've told the system that it needs to go to AGI and to Mexico and to the factory, the moment the approver says approve via a CPI interface, it then goes through into all of those systems at the same time. Those users then simply go in, they see there's a new item, they approve to accept it into their system, and they all have the exact same information at that same time. Okay, even we have automated it into the global financial system. It just goes in there. It appears in there, and that's the new item. So everyone across the globe now have the same item number that we work with, and they have the exact same fields, everything done in the same way. For this first phase of our project, what we did is we firstly focused on the global information, that which is of group relevance across the board to us.